talking about our entry into Photoshop, and I always have to, at the top of this, remind everyone that this is not a Photoshop class. So what I will try and do is give you all the tools you need to finish or work on the assignments in this class. But I highly, highly recommend, if you want to pursue this career-wise, definitely invest in some of our Dart classes that are really dedicated to Illustrator, which we've been working in, Photoshop, InDesign. You really need more of an in-depth education into this than what I'm able to give you here in the intro to, or the Graphic Design 1 class. But when you open images in Photoshop, because it is Adobe, you'll notice the kind of layout here is very similar with your toolbar over here. You'll also recognize a bunch of the tools here, and we will go over some of them here. You also have, again, the option of doing different workspaces up here. And what I usually do is just do essentials, because for our purposes here, I think that's going to be the easiest, especially if you've never used Photoshop before. But, you know, if I was doing something for motion graphics, that's going to put different tools up here, including a timeline for animation and whatnot. So again, for our purposes, Essentials is probably going to be the best workspace. As you select different tools, just like in Illustrator, you're going to get different options up here in the control panel at the top. And again, just to give you an overview of this, for your magazine article, and I pulled these images, these are actually from a project we're working on in Graphic Design 2, where we're designing ads for the Disney Cruise Line here. So I've got a shot of a Mexican port, but options that you have available to you, again, you don't have to use these images the way you find them. The first thing you can do on here is maybe crop the images on here. So there is a cropping tool over here. It looks like two intersecting L's. And when you do that, maybe for the purposes of my layout, I only need to focus on one arch here. And once you position this, if you hit the return key on your keyboard, it will automatically crop this. Now, one thing that's different in Photoshop is if you want to go backwards, you can hit Command Z just like you do in, or you used to be able to. Let's see here. I guess they took that away. You used to be able to go back one step with Command Z, but if you wanted to go more than that, what you need to do is come up here. There's a little tab, and if you hover over it, you'll see it says History. It's got three little squares. If you click on that, this will open and show you everything you've done up to this point. And since I only opened this and cropped it, this is how you would go back to the beginning here and go back to my original shot here. So for your magazine layout, if you found an image you wanted to use, there's some options that you can do up here. You can find them up here in the image drop-down menu, and this is the one I just want to show you. And again, we'll go over this more in depth as we get into the magazine assignment. But we talked about color on here. So under adjustments, I brought this up. It's labeled hue and saturation. Why do you want to use this? Well, I could take this image and just by doing this, I can really lighten it up and make it more of a ghost image. So this could be the background to my magazine article, and the image is still in there, but more as a background. So we call this ghosting the image back there. You could also technically go the other way if I want a really dark image as a background, and then I could run white type over it. So this is one way you can get more imagery into your magazine, by using images as backgrounds in here. Other things you can do in here, you can play with the saturation. So remember I showed you that Westworld magazine layout. If you desaturate the image, I'm pulling color out of here, and so there's a little bit of color still in here, but it's looking very black and white, which it will actually go to if you go all the way to the end here. But maybe for the purpose of your magazine, you want this kind of a vibe where it's very more subdued. You can go the other way though too, and just turn this psychedelic electric colors. Again, it really depends on the mood or the attitude that you want to set with your magazine. And then in several of the examples I showed you, they had added color to the photo. You can do that down here by clicking this image. You can choose your base color here. So, that Jay-Z image, you can make it really saturated. You can make it really dark. All right. Or you can make it very light. So again, another way to add color, another way to add texture, another way to create a background image that you can use on here. So again, I'm going to cover some of these more in depth when we start working with images next week. But I'm going to go back here and take that off. The assignment I'm going to give you today deals with masking. And for this, I pulled up another image. So this is something you're going to be called on a lot in this business, in design and advertising. Can you create a scene by combining different images in here? And so I've got a family here, and I'm going to put the family against this background. All right. Now, here's an example. If I wanted to, can I flop this photo? Do you think?
No.
Why not?
The way that, I don't know, it would seem off. Like the way I guess the way it's coming through the position of the landscape or something.
Let's see. So if you ever want to flop an image, you come up here and you come down here to image rotation. So yeah, you could totally flop them. These are nobodies. No offense to them. I'm sure they're very fine people, but you could flop them if you wanted to. If this was Beyonce, no, you couldn't do that.
So that's the key factor. As long as they're not recognizable, you can pretty much.
Yeah, well, and the other thing too, if the little girl had a wristwatch on and I flopped her, you would have to actually go in there and either remove the wristwatch or doctor the face so that it was facing the right way on there. So, but yeah, if you wanted to, you could flop these people. So what I want to talk about is the idea of masking. And what masking means is, and this is something you never want to get in the habit of doing, and I'm not even going to show you the tool. You can use an eraser tool and erase the background, but the problem with the eraser tool is once you use it, it is gone. And by using masking tools, I can take the background off here and just hide it. And if I need to put it back in there, it's very easy to do. And I'll show you how that works. When you open up any Photoshop documents, usually you'll have these three panels nested together. And layers is the one that's going to be important for this assignment. So when you have an image up here, now it just says background because this is not a layered file. What's great about masking is, in general rule of thumb, in any of this software, you never want to do anything you can't undo. And the way this works is, if I come over here to layers, if I come down here to the very bottom, there's a bunch of icons. The first one that's kind of illuminated that you can use is called the mask layer. And I'm going to click on that. That is going to add a mask layer on here. And the way this works, if I'm on the mask layer, I'm going to come over here and grab a paintbrush tool. And the paintbrush tool up here, make sure you're on the mask, you're not on the photo. And the way this works is if you paint with black, it will mask out whatever you want to mask on here. All right? I'm not erasing this. All right, I'm just kind of getting rid of it. When you see that grid in the background, that means you got nothing there. It's transparent, all right? So I have not erased this. And in fact, if you ever want to look at your mask, come over here and hold the Option or the Alt key down and click on it. And you can see everywhere I painted black, that's been masked out, all right? click on the photo to bring it back, click over here. Come on. But here's the thing. Say you're painting with black and you mask stuff out and you're like, oh, I accidentally got my little girl's head in there. All you have to do is come down here and do the opposite. And if you paint with white, all the information is still there. So the assignment I'm going to give you today is going to have you doing a no, I didn't want to do that. So trying to do a clean mask on these things is going to be kind of a little pain in the ass. I'm going to start with a fresh mask, so I'm going to throw this one away and delete it. So back in the day, which was only like 2 years ago, to mask these people out was a real pain. And you would have to go in here with brushes and the pen tool, and especially trying to get hair in here. And the fine people at Adobe have taken that misery away from us. So the way you do this, in Photoshop you have different selection tools. One is called the marquee tool, where if I select an area and I grab my arrow here, it's a different arrow looking arrow, but I can select a part of an image and move it. If you click and hold the marquee tool, you can also, it's kind of like the shape tool or the ellipse and square tool in Illustrator. If I can do that, I can grab their arrow here and move a section of photo. There is also a lasso tool where you can just grab a shape and freehand this, and then if you go here, you can grab a shape. One option you have here that's different from Illustrator is, in any of these selection tools, if I select the lasso, you'll get these dialog boxes at the top. You can actually soften the edge of whatever you select. So if I come up here and do 50 pixels, when I go and select this, when I go to move it, you can see now it has a very soft edge on it too. And we'll come back and revisit that. And then the third selection tool here, and this is the one you're going to be using on this assignment, is the magic wand. The magic wand, when you come up here and click on any part of the photo, it is going to figure out what color the pixel you selected is, and it's going to grab every pixel that's the same color or similar to it. And you can adjust this, the sensitivity of this up here. So default, it always goes to 32 pixels. So when I select the sky, any blue that's within 32 color variations of that blue will get selected. If I select this and make it lower, let's say I make that 10, now you can see it's fewer blues. If I come up here and make it much larger, say I do 90, then you can see it gets much more of the sky in here. But what I'm getting to, this is the new function that Adobe put in here. If you select the magic wand, you will have some options come up here. And one of the new options you have is select subject. So if you click on that, it will take a minute. It will use artificial intelligence, look at your image, and try and determine what the subject of the photo is. And then what you can do is come over here and select the mask option. Now, it's not perfect. You might have to go in here and clean this up a little bit so you can see it got part of the sky in here. But again, it's pretty good and it saves you a lot of time. Once you do that, I'm just going to unnest this image. I can actually now just drag this into my Mexico shot and very quickly put my family on their vacation. All right? So here's the assignment. You have a week to do this, so I know I'm using up most of the class time today. But here's the assignment. Let me break the video apart here.